Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Danika Herrick. Welcome to my house on the North Shore of Boston.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Danika Herrick. I'm an artist and I design fabric and wallpaper, and I'm also a former interior designer. You are in my home here on the North Shore of Boston. My husband and I like to go antiquing and collect stuff, and I'm also an avid DIYer, so I will constantly be painting something and redoing something or reupholstering something. But it's just years of our kind of collected mess. So welcome to my entry. So when you walk in, we kind of have just a lot of random things. Like my husband used to, when he first started off, was a sign maker, so he collects signs. So we have the donut when you walk in. And then when you come through here, since I design wallpaper, my house has become my studio and my showroom. I test everything here. When I design stuff, I usually will do a room up. So things are constantly changing in here. But this room is the sitting room, and this has the Courtney stripe on grass cloth, and then the Elsie's garden in here, but that will change. And then this is the Kirsten on the chairs. And ironically, both my sisters are in this room. So Courtney is one sister, Kirsten's the other. So I name my patterns after people I know and just names that I like. This room is just kind of like a cozy little nook, no TV, just to read, have cocktails. This entire piece is just filled with plates. I am a plate collector. So this is where my blue and whites and greens live. This is probably the oldest piece that we have. This is from our first house. We got married 20 years ago, and it has been painted about 20 times. Now over here, I like old and random pieces, but these were, again, more auction pieces of a hunt scene, and I just liked this old dog piece, even though it's ripped up, but I love the frame on it. And then this is probably one of my favorite pieces. I got this cat when I was down at Green Chair. It was a charity in North Carolina, and they have a charity shop that they used to raise money, but I just loved him, so he came home with me. And that's kind of the story of most pieces in my house. These chairs are really fun. I got these at an antique store in Newburyport, and they were crushed red velvet. It looked like Santa's suit when I got them, but they're actually, the name is, I think they're Pearson chairs, but I had them upholstered. But these, we've had them probably for like 15 years, but they're just super comfortable. And when our kids were little, they would basically just have so much fun spinning their friends in them. But yeah, these are some of these are another of my favorite pieces. On this wall, I have, this is a placemat. It's one of the original ones from 1945 from Louise Kenyon, who was one of the Folly Cove designers. And they were based right north of here in Rockport, about 15 minutes away. And they were a group of printmakers, this group of women that started making prints. And Schumacher now has a few of their patterns as wallpaper. But I just fell in love with this and the simplicity of it. And this I got up in Gloucester at an auction. And then Jenny Andrews painted that piece. And then over here, this little table I love. There's just a little like fake book door, but I really thought it was a cute little piece. So the pattern on these drapes is the Elsie's garden. And I designed this because I wanted a really large branching chinoiserie feel. So, and then I kind of custom colored it to work in here because that's what I do. So all my designs, I love that I could custom color and make whatever anyone wants. So, and then I kind of put it on a tone-on-tone silhouette, the Courtney stripe, and that just kind of, there is a lot of pattern in my house. My entire house is tons of like pattern on pattern on pattern, but I really love to be able to mix up and layer, and it's a lot to look at, but you have to kind of take it and like take it apart and like kind of study each one individually, but they all kind of work together. And that's one of my favorite things about designing patterns. So my husband is a realtor and I was a former interior designer. And before we bought this house, I think we lived in about 7 houses because we'd constantly be buying a house, fixing it up, moving on to the next. 7 years ago, we actually lived right around the corner and this house came on the market. My husband had emailed it to me and said, let's go look at this. So we got here to it was a big open house, and he goes, don't look at the house, just go straight to the backyard. And I was like, but I need to check the rooms. But he's like, no, just go out to the backyard. And this house, we picked it for location. It's overlooks the Salem Harbor, and we have a lighthouse in our backyard. So this is like the best house for the summer. We love this place. And so we have been here for 7 years and slowly working on making it ours. All right, let's go into the living room. This room, we wanted to feel moodier. We painted the ceiling blue. We hang out in here, and in the winter, we have the fireplace going. This is where everyone hangs out, watches TV. So this room, we just wanted to feel cozy, but it had this huge cathedral ceiling, and it used to be white and a textured ceiling, which was just lovely. So we smoothed everything over, painted it blue, and it definitely helped to envelop you into the space. So starting off in this room, I found this lamp at an antique store, I think up in New Hampshire, and I just loved it. I call it like, it kind of feels like a lamp cactus, but I love the blue and how it kind of played off. It kind of, it's a more mid-century piece, which I love, but it kind of lightens up all the antiques. Now, again, with my husband, with being a sign maker, if you look at this room, you'll see he just collects signs, but that was the original sign from when he had his first business. And he was a sign maker at first, and then he went into real estate. So he made his own sign and started his own real estate company, and that was it. And that was, so that's kind of, now it's Herrick and Company, because this is where we all gather, and this is where the company is. So in this room, again, there's more, like I have more of my patterns that I just keep making pillows and trying out stuff. So they're ever changing. And then the colors in this room, at first I wanted to keep it neutral, so I can kind of keep changing things out. But I fell in love with this rug and the warmth of adding that little bit of rust into it. So it kind of became the launching pad for everything that I do. And like when I am colorizing patterns, I'm trying to work it into this rug. So this now, with the blues, the rust, the browns, and then there's even a little bit of greens in here. This is the table. I love this table. I think it's a John Dickinson style table. It's a metal, and I wound up, it was really rusted and in tough shape, so I kind of just gave it a whitewash because it had a faint whitewash on it, and we striped it, and it's just to tie in the armchairs. I got these armchairs at a local consignment shop here. The fireplace, we renovated this room about 5 years ago. There used to be a step down sunken room off of it with 2 doors that actually were exterior doors because there used to be a patio outside, and they put an addition on, the former owners. So we raised the floor up and we opened up and arched the space and kind of fixed up the mantle because it was in rough shape. So here I used to be a decorative artist, so I faux painted the marble onto the hearth, and I collect disco balls. So you're gonna see disco balls, a lot of spaces in here. So we just wanted to have it be a little bit cleaner and simpler because it was very, this house was built in 95, so it was a very 95 colonial looking mantle. So we just beefed it up, and it's a 2-way, it goes through to the next room. So we have this thing going all winter. When I see a painting, I will just buy it, and I will say I will find a home for it. So I have these 2 I really like together. This was actually this is a photocopy of my grandfather's business sign. It was Andy's Auto Repair, but my mom blew that up for me, and we framed it and put it in here. This is an old Chesterfield, but it is the most comfortable couch. You just sink into it. It's really, really soft. And I was going to get it reupholstered, but it's in such pristine shape. This came out of an estate sale, I think, down in Connecticut. And I just loved it, because to find a really comfy couch is great. So the coffee table is another piece that was found at an auction. There with this, we made a nice big floral arrangement. I love fresh flowers. I try to have them as often as possible, and when I take you out to the gardens, I love to grow. Peony season just ended, but I love to grow flowers and constantly just be able to go out and cut and bring them into the house, because it definitely gives your room life and it makes it feel a little friendlier and softer. In this house, you're going to see a lot of pieces that I've found through auctions. We have a great auction house, Kaminsky Auction here in town, and I am constantly online doing auctions or going to an auction house, but some of my favorite pieces are from the auction, so I'm excited to show you guys those. Now I'm going to take you into the dining room. This dining room is very multifunctional because I'm an artist and because I'm designing and painting patterns all the time, I actually use this room as more of a studio because it has the best light in the house. It's south facing, it's all windows. The center of this room is this table, which is a work in progress currently, but this table has a very special, and it's a special meaning. It was built by my father for our wedding present. And when we got married in Salem, Massachusetts. Since my husband is in real estate and does a lot of development, he had bought a house on the Salem Common and he was making it into condos. And before they started demolition, we decided to throw a wedding party. We had eloped, but we threw a party afterwards. And it was in October, in Halloween in Salem. So we just made it a big costume party. And the house was it's a beautiful Georgian house. And the moldings, everything in it were gorgeous. So we're like, the house was in great shape. Let's throw a party. So this table was actually made from the floorboards on the first floor. The floor was hickory, and I don't know if you can tell, but some of the boards were 30 inches wide. They had to be replaced because of structural issues in the house. So my father took the floorboards, because this is where our dance floor for when we had our party was, for our wedding party, and he built us a table for a wedding present out of the floorboards from the house we got our wedding party in. So it's kind of special, and right now it's currently, I've been working on painting the Salem Harbor, and it's in process, but having all the houses that we've lived in, since we've lived in probably a total of 10 together, and all the areas that are special for us, painted onto this table. So this is just the beginning of it, but yeah, we're here. We have a lighthouse right behind our house. So I have not painted the house yet. That's our old house around the corner and another house we lived in up the street. But we have the lighthouse right out of here. So this room actually has the best views. There's a beach across the street and the harbor right in front of us. I wallpapered this room with the Big Ben ticking stripe that I made. And I thought this would be a great room to tent because of the shape and the size. I regretted that once I started wallpapering because I had no idea what I took on. But this was definitely very challenging, getting all the stripes to line up and feel like it's one big tented space. And I think I needed a chiropractor because this took about a week, and my neck from looking up was so sore. But I absolutely love it. And it now just kind of feels like you're walking into a big tented space. The chandelier was originally black. It was a basic chandelier that we had bought when we first moved in, and it used to hang in the blue room right off here. And I switched it around, and I took brass, sheets of brass, and I found these stars online, and I created more of it looks like kind of fireworks. So I just kind of created a ruffled sleeve out of brass, and I cut the brass into the little ruffles and attached it and put the stars on wire, pieces of brass wire to kind of create the effect. And I painted it gold. So that was one of my DIYs. And then the other thing too is that in this room, I designed the woodlands pattern on the chairs, and they're just little slipcovers. These are old embroidered shield back chairs. But I put the woodlands pattern on here, and then to kind of tie it in, I actually created a thick banding. I braided it, and I had stuffed I made big long rolls of fabric, like kind of little sausages, and I would basically braided, I forget how many yards it took, but it was, wrapping the cotton and then braiding it and then attaching it to because I wanted to have a little bit more of a three-dimensional trim on this instead of a flat one. So that was another little project. This house is just constantly changing. I'm sure these will change in a year or two because I'll get a new pattern and a new idea. My favorite space in this house is the backyard. But going inside, my favorite space is now the kitchen. We just finished a renovation. It was a big undertaking, but it was inspired from a tile floor from one of our favorite restaurants in Boston. And it kind of grew from there. So that is now my new favorite space. Before that, I would have to have said it was my office because I am in there basically like 12 hours a day. So that that room I had made very kind of cozy because I spent so much time in it. All right, now we're gonna go to the kitchen, which we just remodeled. This kitchen was originally inspired by floors from a restaurant in Boston, Contessa, that we love to go to. They had little 6-inch squares, and I was like, I was originally gonna paint this floor, and I was not gonna renovate the kitchen. I was just gonna change out our old island. But things quickly unravel when you decide to do any sort of renovation or remodel projects. So what started off was, we're just gonna paint the floors, do the counters, and then we realized our old cabinets were not in the greatest shape, and we were just gonna paint them, but then we're like, let's get new cabinets, which quickly turned into, let's remove a wall. So right along here is where there used to be the sink, and there was a doorway and a little window, which drove me crazy because you'd be washing dishes looking out of a rectangular opening, which I hated. So that wall was the first thing to go. And it made a huge difference because it really just kind of connected everything. And I love this space now. So then it went from being painted floors. We had to rip out the hardwood because of some issues we had. So we just went for it and did 14 different types of marble on the floor here. And this was quite the undertaking. It took about 3 weeks to finish, actually more than that. But the problem is the pickets. I was like, great, we found pickets that will work. We don't have to cut anything. Then we got 12 by 12 tiles. The pickets were all, perfect. Everything matched up until we found out that the pickets had been discontinued. So we needed 425. 300 was available. And so it took about a week. The poor tile guy had to cut everything. And that took about a week to cut all the pickets and to get everything to fit. So that kind of held up the job a little bit, but in the end, I'm so happy. And we have like the Buchanans did our floors, and they were amazing because I had to create a map, and I still have it somewhere, but it's a map showing, and I lettered every one of these 14 different type of marbles, and they had to go through and painstakingly check off because it got so confusing because some of these look very similar to another. Like there's 2 different shades of terracotta, there's 2 different shades of the kind of a mint green, and even the browns, those are 2 different types of browns. So I know I drove them crazy, but they did an unbelievable job, and I absolutely feel like this is now makes the space. And so after opening up the kitchen, I used to have an island that was like a high-low island, and it drove me nuts because you were just always, one side always just collected junk. And I didn't have enough space to really lay stuff out and work, so I wanted just one flat, larger island. And then we flip-flopped our sink and our stove. Our sink used to be, there was a sink here and the cooktop was here. I like it much better this way because I just like to be able to have the sink kind of central to be able to look outside. And then I went with an Arabescato marble, which I loved. I wanted some movement, and this definitely gave me that, and it's just so pretty. We put in the brass cafe shelves, and these are on, when we pulled one of the colors from the marble into the backsplash tile. So the funny story about this is this I was not planning to have so much pink in this kitchen, but I actually love it. When I had bought the bar stools online and I had bought my lights, they were supposed to be the color of this more like soft peachy pink on the floor. When they came in, those chairs first, they were very, very pink. And then when these arrived, they were pink. So I was like, it's meant to be, we're gonna go with it. So but I'm the only, like I have a house full of men, a husband and 2 sons, so I'm the only girl, and I don't get to put my pink in as much as I want to, so this is my touch. And I absolutely love it. So this, we put in a brass rail, foot rail. We painted the island a shade of green to kind of ground it, and then we wallpapered the area over the center of the island. And just because I overdo pattern, and I'm a pattern girl. So, and I love to I have paper on like the majority of the ceilings in my house. And then over here, this table this table I did in 2017. This was an IKEA Doxa table. That was just the basic white table. I painted it with a shagreen pattern, and this took about 2 weeks to paint. And I remember we had a little tiny, when we had the wall here, we had a little TV, and I had watched, I never watched Vanderpump Rules, but I watched all 7 seasons, and that was my Bravo induction. Now I'm just a Housewives junkie. So, but this took 2 weeks to do, and it's now, I'm like, this is a family heirloom, like it's gonna get passed down. And so I've polyed it, and I've protected it, and I also gold leaf the base so that it's a little bit fancier now with our fancier kitchen. The chairs are Ward Bennett chairs that we found at an antique shop. It's the original mohair. They actually, I think they came out of Harvard when they renovated one of the buildings. And then I just took the finish off because the finish was very like a real orange shellac, and I did not like it. So I just took off. These are just raw right now. I do have plans just to wax them eventually. And then this light fixture was this mid-century fixture. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. But I added a little pop of pink, and I took rose quartz orbs, and I ground them down on a belt sander so they'd have a flat edge, and attached them to the sides of the piece, just in between the light bulbs, just to kind of tie it into all the other pink. And then this is one of my patterns. This is the Fairfield stripe on the windows, just to kind of tie some of the blue in. We have so many colors going on in the floor that like you could kind of pull from anything in here, and you really miss. Coming down this way, we just put all pantry, appliance garages behind the doors here. And on that side, I didn't want to have any upper cabinets over there. Like after having a kitchen that felt so closed in with so many uppers and so many walls, I just wanted to have it feel nice and open. So in here, like we just did one wall of cabinets. One other thing that I love in here, because my grandparents were real, I would spend summers with them, like Emma and Andy Yagnasak, my grandparents, and I have such fond memories of, like, they had a lake house in New Jersey, so we would spend our summers with them. But this was a clock that was in the basement, and as kids, we'd go to Grandma and Grandpa's, and the kids would all hang out in the basement. So this clock it was theirs, and I kind of paired it with I found this little planter tin, wall hanger tin, and I love it. I always stick an orchid in it, and it kind of travels around the house depending upon the orchid. So, and then over here, this was a painting by my grandmother, and then this is a Janet Bolton quilted piece that I liked. I just thought it was sweet. So they worked well together. And now right off the kitchen is a powder room. And This was one of my earlier wallpaper designs. Come on in. So this is a mural I created called the Citrus Garden Mural. And it is just lemon and orange trees. But I wanted to do, since I love blue and white, I went and did a complete blue and white in here. I just wanted it to feel cozy and enclosed when you come in. So this is your little blue and white pop off the kitchen. So how I got from interior designer to fabric wallpaper designer, I've worn a lot of hats throughout my life. I went to school for bio and quickly, day one, dropped that major. I'd always been very creative, done a lot of art, but I never seriously thought about studying art because I thought I'd be a starving artist and I needed to get a job that would pay bills. So I eventually had to take an art elective and I was like, why am I not doing this? This is what I love doing. So lo and behold, I also worked as an apprentice doing decorative painting when I was in New York at a school. And I fell in love with interiors because I was painting the walls, the floors, murals, even like I was painting things on their fabric. And that led me to go back to school for interior design, where I've moved to Boston. And I worked as an interior designer for 20 years. During that time, I had a design blog, had a fretwork company, and I also had to reteach myself Illustrator, and I started to figure out how to design pattern repeats. And I was able to figure out how to take my artwork and put that into fabric and wallpaper and make it into repeats. So that quickly took off for me. I started posting things on Spoonflower, and within like 4 years, it became like a real job. And then when the pandemic hit, I had finished a large commercial interior design project, and I just like realized I can't go into people's homes. What am I going to do? And at that time, everyone was online, and the fabric and wallpaper went crazy because people couldn't shop in a store. And I just said, I'm going to focus on just this and see how it goes during this time. And within that first year, it really took off even more. And I decided to quit my day job and just do surface pattern design. Now let's go over to my office. So this is my office. I spend, like I said, most of my time in here. I work from home. I know I should get an office and a physical space outside the house, but I love being able to just, when the whim strikes, design a pattern, or if I could get up at 6 in the morning and just sit down with my coffee and start working. So in here, I wanted this to feel really cozy since I spend so much time in here. And so I used the Walter ticking stripe, and I wallpapered the ceiling, the walls, inside the bookcase with the ticking stripe. I even did the skirting around my desk and then my printer area in it. And then I trimmed it in a cranberry grosgrain ribbon. And then I paired it with the Ophelia pattern in a cranberry maroon over here on the drapes with a James stripe along the banding. So I honestly, most of my designs, I just design what I want in my house a lot of the time, sadly. So that's where most of them come from. And I also have so many customers that will reach out and be like, hey, can you change this color? Can you move this around? So it's great because sometimes you just get stuck in what you like and what you like to do. So I love when people like have a custom or they need me to do something that's out of my box that I live in here. So because it kind of opens my eyes and lets me think in a different color palette or in a different scale. So in my office, this is my main workspace here. I have 2 computers. I work on Photoshop. I paint everything by hand. I then scan it in or photograph it and then work on it on like a large computer and get it into repeats, do all my colorizing. And then over here is my big mood board where I'm always kind of playing and testing out patterns and scale to see what's working. Or just to kind of see, all right, I forgot about this pattern, let's mix it with this. So it's kind of like a nice little area to play. And then I have the bookcase This was actually, this room, when we bought the house, didn't do much in here as far as structurally. The bookcase and the desk were in here. It was their home office. But since it was white and I had the very vintage 90s, it looked like Saved by the Bell. It was like pink, teal, and seafoam. It's like splattered wallpaper. So that quickly changed. The house was very green, pink, and peach when we moved in. So we've been like slowly making it into ours. So in here, I painted the cabinets they've been a few colors, but this is the latest. This is a nice deep cranberry red. I just kind of, all the things over time that I collect, and it kind of moves around. But I love my blue and white, and then I just kind of blend things together. I have all my books for inspiration in here, and just some more little framed art pieces that I've picked up over time. Made a little pleated lampshade, and I really liked the salvaged edge on it, so I kept that. And then I painted the floor. That's another project. So this was a hardwood floor, but it was, you know, when we first moved in, all the floors were very orangey oak. So I painted this one just to kind of neutralize it. Since I'm always, like, I love blue and white, it's my neutral, so this floor became blue and white, and everything kind of works off of it. And then, what else is in here? These are really old cabinets that I've had for several houses, but they are great flat storage for all. This is where I store, like, all of my original artwork is going to be in here, and it's just great for storing, and all my color maps. So I probably need to get a new one because this one's beat up pretty badly, but it is a workhorse. And then the top, we just finished it by kind of banding it off with the grosgrain ribbon and popping a starlight in the middle to kind of like the cherry on top. All right, now let's go to the primary suite, which is right down here off my office. In the primary suite, there's a little funny story. When we first moved in, there was hunter green carpets. The previous owners, they loved hunter green and peach and pink, and there was a lot of it. So everything in here was hunter green and then big poofy pink. I call them prom dress stripes. So that was the first thing to go, and we kind of neutralized it and lived with it. And over time, this room still is not finished, but it's just, it's like we just kind of slowly decorate and let it unfold over time. So in here, I love my blue, so this has got a nice, soft, restful blue. It has grass cloth on the back wall, and it's paint on the walls. And this piece right here, this sculptural at the Jarre piece, I think it is, it's here right now. I think eventually it's going to go to our living room. And then in here, I wanted it just to be kind of quiet, soft, and restful. So one of my first patterns was the Emma stripe, and so this is on the Roman shades, and I've been just mixing in. So there was this is, I think, the Brent, this is the Pearls Bouquet, and then this is a new one, the Water Marbled Fanfare, and then the Brush Weaves Plaid. So we've kind of just keep mixing in patterns, and these are new. So I kind of swap things out as I come up with new patterns. I'll just recolor it to kind of work in my current color scheme. And then this is, when you go outside, you'll see I actually hand blocked all of my outdoor pillows, but I scanned it and turned it into a print on that I sell that is actually made as a 24-inch pillow. So you could just cut the squares, sew them together, and either put an 18-inch pillow with a flange or do a big 24-inch pillow with a banded edge. Since, again, we have really big cathedral ceilings in here, there was a ceiling fan, and it was the debate, like, my husband loves the ceiling fan. So we have one, he won out in the living room, but I was like, the ceiling fan wasn't doing it for me, and we have air conditioning, so, and it doesn't really get that hot here, despite today, but it's usually pretty breezy here on the water. So we just chose a giant fixture. This was, when we moved in 2017, we put this one up, and it kind of just fills the space and brings the height down a little bit. The nightstands were auction finds. The veneer was not in the greatest shape, so I wound up puttying and painting them. I just love how simple and clean the lines are. And I like the hardware, just a little simple pulls on there. Then this dresser over here was another piece that we had that we just painted some stripes on to, I think eventually I have plans for putting something a little bit better for having the TV and to have it hidden away, but we haven't gotten to that project just yet. Okay, let me take you into the primary bathroom. This room is it's on the list to be remodeled, but we've just been, I kind of say, just put wallpaper on it and make it look a little prettier. But so there's a lot of like dark black and green marble in here that came with the house that we've been living with, because we have plans to kind of update this and do a few other things in here. But in the meantime, I did put a new vanity top on, and I created, just like last month, I took my normal heat wave pattern and I scaled it up by 3 times because of a customer had requested, they're like, can you make this bigger? And I'm like, sure. And I loved it, so it went into here, and I just kind of feel like it's like a huge faux bois. It gives you movement, and it's quiet too. So this room has a giant supersized heat wave. So this was a picture of my husband, his parents gave him. And it's kind of fun. The joke is, if you have to use the toilet, you kind of feel like you're going sideways with the boat here. The other fun feature is this house came with a telephone next to the toilet. We haven't gotten rid of that yet during the renovation, but it's just it's pretty funny if you need to make a call. Now I'm going to take you upstairs to the guest room and the studio. The guest room, we call this Ashley's room. It's my niece Ashley, and she lives in Charleston, and she comes up and visits all the time, so she sleeps in this the most. So a few Thanksgivings ago, Ashley and I wallpapered this room, and this is the Pearls Bouquet. So up here it was just light and airy, soft blues and greens again, my favorites, and we kind of mixed in. This is the heat wave again that was in my bathroom, but regular scale. And we have the Amelia and the Ashley lattice and the Veronica and the buffalo plaid in here, as well as just a cabana stripe on the curtains. But this room, all the rooms on the second floor have great views because we're on a little peninsula, so you kind of have like 270-degree water views, and you have the lighthouse out the window here. So, and it gets really great sunrises and sunsets here too. So over here, these are just some chairs that I had slip covered, and I created I have a striped star pattern where I cut the stripe off and I attached that for banding on the chairs. And this is just another, I found this at a estate sale, this little bench, as well as the bird house. This was an old Salvation Army find of mine. This dresser, I just kind of like to mix in the mid-century with the antiques. This old pine yard sale dresser. And then the whole point of this room is just, the guests, you just want them to feel like at peace. I didn't want to make it too busy. Well, it is very busy with a lot of pattern, but I want it just to feel kind of quiet and the colors to be a little softer and more restful in here. All right, now I'm going to take you down the hall to the studio. It's basically the sewing studio and where I keep all my supplies. This room was done a few years back, and I started off with the painted floor and the grass cloth. I put the tulip stripe. This was actually, my kids have moved their rooms around, but this was actually my oldest son's room when he first moved in. He moved across the hall. I decided to take this because having my business at home, I've kind of taken over several rooms in the house, and my sewing and fabric needed a place because I have so much fabric. And I'm always sewing curtains or pillows or making samples. So here is the sewing table. And then behind me, this was the closet that I took over and used this to have, I keep all my fabric down underneath. I paint my nails up here. I mean, this is kind of like my little space, but this has all of my supplies for block carving and painting, and keep my fabric and sewing machines over there. But I love having a space that's just kind of, we have multifunctional spaces, but this one, like, it's just nice and restful and quiet up here. And then when I have really big projects, I take it to the dining room table, because that table, my dad designed it. He actually created it to fit a bolt of fabric. So it's 54 inches long and it's 54 inches wide by 8 feet long. So I can make drapes on that one. So, and then there's also, this was a wedding present from my mom and my dad. And this was a little IKEA hack over here. This was just an IKEA console. It was the Billy, I think it was the Billy bookcase, or not the Billy, the one that had the cube, the cubbies. So I painted it to look like faux burl wood, and then had doors made and added them on so that they can just hide things and fold up. I put the rattan in the back side of them. And that's just, it has tons of storage in this room. And then there's also a little twin-sized bed. If we ever have multiple guests, someone could stay in, we call it the princess room because it has a little canopy. But it's just we kind of created this little nook because of the eaves, and it fit a twin-size bed. We added some fabric just to kind of hide, because it doesn't go straight up there. There's a weird second slant there, so the fabric kind of hides the strange architecture. But overall, this is just it's like my second office. And now for my favorite part of the house, the reason why we bought it is the backyard. Let me show you. You're greeted by the Hospital Point Lighthouse in our backyard and the Salem Harbor. And we have a pool too, so we are out here all summer. And we have a little sitting area over here. My husband loves old signs. This is his Coke machine. This Coke machine's made it, I think, through like 5 houses. We've had this since we lived in Salem. And it works. So it's a great little, it's a fun little conversation piece. In the backyard, so we have the fire pit that came with the house. And I guess the folks that lived here before, there was a hot tub here that they replaced and they put the fire pit, but it was made from a piece of the Longfellow Bridge. They carved a piece of granite out for the fire pit. And then all of the chairs here, these were my grandparents', they're old Woodard pieces. So these were all this is actually basement, like the rumpus room furniture. And I brought it outside because I loved it, and it reminds me of hanging out at my grandparents'. Now over here is where we kind of have our summer relaxation area here. Last summer I decided I was going to paint my umbrellas, and I block printed 3 umbrellas and I added some fringe trim to them. And I also did all of the pillows around the fire pit as well. And then I kind of turned those block prints into patterns that I sell on Spoonflower. But that was all these little undertakings. I'm always working on something. So the house never looks this clean. It's usually there's a project going on in some room. Now, then over here, the pool came with the house. We were really lucky. So when my husband said, go out to the backyard, I was like, wow, this is here? Because I never knew this was here walking by this house. And you get such great views. Since you're up high, we have a beach across the street over there. And then Salem Harbor, and that's Marblehead across the way, and then the lighthouse right here. And I like how the yard is kind of broken up into levels. I have my gardens down below, and I also have gardens in the back as well. But it's such a great space, and it's so relaxing. And we hang out here. This is where we are most of the time. And then in the winter, that's when we're really using the house. But yeah, we kind of joke around, and they're like, we do staycation. We call it Hotel Herrick. Home to me means a space that I can gather with my friends and family. So really just being able to have the energy and the conversations and friends and family around you and enjoying your space that you kind of curated over time is really what home means to me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.